I've spent the last few months really getting stuck into Le Mans Ultimate. I've been trying to gain an overall rounded picture of the current state of the game. And with the full release seemingly not a million miles away, what is the current state of Le Mans Ultimate, and is it worth picking up today? Okay, so the best place to start is probably looking at exactly what it is you get for your money if you're putting that money down today. The game itself is for sale on Steam at an early access price of £28.99 or $37.99 if you're in the US. Now this base price includes all 7 tracks from the 2023 World Endurance Championship season, plus every GTE, LMP2 and Hypercar from that season as well, resplendent in each team's individual liveries that were used throughout the season. What's not included, however, are all of the additional cars and tracks that were added to the roster for the 2024 season. Aside from the BMW M Hybrid V8 LMDH in the Hypercar class, and a pair of LMGT3 cars, the Ford Mustang and the McLaren 720S Evo, all of which can be downloaded for free from the DLC page on Steam, the rest of the 2024 content can be purchased as paid DLC. So this includes all 7 of the remaining LMGT3 cars, also the 4 circuits that were new to the calendar in 2024, these being Imola, Kota, Losail and Interlagos, and it also includes the 3 new Hypercar editions, that being the Alpine, Isotta Fraschini and the Lamborghini. Now these are split into 5 separate packs, one of which, including Losail, the GT3 Lamborghini Huracan Evo 2 and the Lexus RCF, is actually still to come. Or you can buy the 2024 Season Pass, which includes all of the content I've just mentioned, and it's released when the content is released at a slightly cheaper price than buying each pack separately. Now the Season Pass currently sits at £39.99, which you will of course have to pay on top of the base game if you want to experience 2024's new content. There is another way, however, of accessing the DLC, and that is through a paid subscription. Yep, that's right. Instead of owning all of the DLC outright, you can alternatively pay a lump sum of $84 or around £64 for a year's subscription to something called Race Control Pro Plus. You can also subscribe on a monthly basis rather than an annual one, but it will cost you, of course, a little bit more over the course of the year. Now what this does is it grants you access to all of the available LMU DLC at any given time, plus some additional perks as well, so long as you have an active subscription. Think of it as if you were paying to have all of the content on loan until your subscription runs out. Those additional perks, by the way, include all DLC content from Motorsport Games' other fabled sim, R-Factor 2, and access to something called Online Championship Mode, something you can also access via a cheaper subscription that doesn't include the DLC content. Are you a bit confused at this stage? I'm not surprised if you are. But to be fair, once you do get your head around the basic offerings, the Race Control website and Steam DLC store page are actually both pretty clear in terms of what's on offer. But it's also worth reminding you at this stage that Le Mans Ultimate is still in early access, so paid DLC for an early access title, what do you think of that? Understandable and justified, or leaving a bit of a sour taste? Let us know in the comments below. So with content covered, what can you actually do in the game today? In terms of offline racing, not much. You can jump into a single race weekend with customizable session lengths, AI, classes, weather, etc., and you can watch your replays, I guess? The only other current offline mode is called Asynchronous Co-op, and I'm not going to go into the full details here. You can actually check out one of our previous videos when it was released, which explained it a little bit more. But essentially, it's an offline AI race where you share the car with a friend, you do your stint, park the car in the pits, and your friend can actually continue the race from that position at a time of their choice. But aside from that, we still don't have any form of offline career mode, or even just a basic championship mode. Online feels far more fleshed out, with daily and weekly races, special events, the aforementioned championship mode for Race Control Pro subscribers, and a ranking system which gives you a driver and safety ranking between bronze and platinum, and a proper sense of progression. The higher your safety rank, the more events you're eligible to take part in, and essentially you unlock as you go through hypercars, multi-class racing, longer races, stuff like that. And your performance-based driver ranking affects which split you'll be put in, so effectively you should be racing against other drivers of a similar ability level. So that's a brief summary of what is currently on offer, but what do I think of it all? And more importantly, what do you think of it all? I'm going to be sharing my thoughts in this video, but I'd love you to share your thoughts down in the comment section below, and leave us a like while you're down there if you're enjoying this video so far.
I hope you're all enjoying this video. Just a quick message though for those of you using Fanatec equipment. Maybe you're looking to upgrade, maybe you're looking for new peripherals. If you use the affiliate link down in the description below, it will take you to the Fanatec website. It won't make a difference to your experience, but what it will do is help support this TraxionGG YouTube channel and of course our website. And that will help us make more content like this in the future. Back to the video.
So I'll start again with the offline stuff, and to be honest, without any proper progression-based game modes, at the moment it just feels like a way of practicing the online stuff. Don't get me wrong, fun racing can certainly be had. In fact, the AI are actually pretty good to race with relative to many other popular sims, and the level of customization for each session is impressive. But the races themselves just feel relatively meaningless. You're only really going to get enjoyment out of these on a race-by-race basis. Now, if that's all you want out of your sim racing, then perfect, you're going to enjoy this. You're going to enjoy the realism and all of the other things about the driving in this game, which I'm going to come onto shortly. But if you are someone who craves objectives and a form of long-term journey, then this probably isn't going to provide you that longevity. And even in terms of realism, without driver swaps at this stage, the official game of the World Endurance Championship can't actually properly simulate the World Endurance Championship. It's more of a driver stint simulator. Race weekends are at least a bit easier to stomach now, with tyre warmer options and the introduction of GT3s making it a bit more accessible, rather than the hardcore baptism of fire that chews you up and spits you out before you can even say Azotta Fraschini. Asynchronous co-op mode is at least unique, but is it something that most of us are going to play very often? Probably not. Then again, its presence causes no harm. If you want to play it, you can play it. If you don't want to, you don't have to. I just don't see it being very high up the priority list for the majority of people. Multiplayer, on the other hand, is where this game in its current state thrives. And I'm not just talking about the available races or the structure, I'm actually talking about what the multiplayer races facilitate, because they essentially put the best parts of this game up on a pedestal. LMU has tremendous gameplay foundations, and this can be properly enjoyed already thanks to this online system, despite there being plenty more headroom in future to improve on it further. Let me just explain what I mean by that. The way multiplayer is structured allows you to jump into races with relative ease, and after a few days of playing, you will begin to find yourself in and amongst drivers of a similar level. You will also quickly rise through the safety rank levels should you be keeping it clean, and soon you'll be racing in races that are only unlocked to the players who are just as clean as you. And when a game gives you that platform of close, tight-knit competition with peers who have already proven their ability to race cleanly in the same way that you have, what you are left with is an opportunity for pure racing enjoyment. And then it's going to boil down to a number of gameplay factors. Are the cars actually fun to drive? Do they handle well? Are they immersive, realistic? Are they well balanced between the classes? And does the netcode allow for close racing, minimal lag, predictable movements, and natural contact rates? The answer to every single one of those questions when it comes to Le Mans Ultimate is yes. The actual driving experience is undoubtedly one of the best in all of sim racing right now. Anyone who's played R-Factor 2, if they ever managed to forge their way through the jungle, otherwise known as the R-Factor 2 setup process, knows that Studio 397 knows what it's doing with regards to physics and force feedback. And that certainly carries over to LMU. It is top tier in the driving field department. And as I said about the netcode, it's once again right up there in the top tier amongst the best that sim racing has to offer. You can have so many great races with close, side-by-side, bumper-to-bumper action, and the movements of the cars around you, the synchronization, everything is as close to perfect as I've ever seen it. It's really, really natural. Most of the time, you could almost say it feels like you're racing someone on split screen, but without the compromises of split screen. Now, of course, this isn't true 100% of the time. You do see the odd stutter or screen freeze or, ping spike from someone racing on the other side of the world, but that's inevitable because you can't control everything about the global network situation. You also cannot control people's personal Wi-Fi or internet connections. Thanks to both the netcode and the physics, contact actually feels realistic. You will survive some door banging and the odd nudge from time to time, but equally, contact at the wrong angle will punish you in a realistic manner. So trying to win a race online should be an enjoyable and challenging experience, with other drivers of a similar ability level and the possibilities of racing each other very close indeed. And then you throw into the mix strategical elements. The game has dynamic weather and time of day, meaning rain could be a factor during a race. And the rain is simulated well, without being the epitome of realism. Cars feel great sliding about and the lack of grip feels authentic. However, the grip variation between different areas of the tarmac lacks the dynamicism of an iRacing or even a Gran Turismo 7. Then there's virtual energy. Fuel strategy is also incredibly important when trying to win a race on LMU, although the first beginner races don't require pit stops, so do offer an entry point without the added complexity. Again, the details here are probably for another video, but just know that a little bit of clever forward thinking and a bit of adaptability during a race can really give you a big advantage and help your results. You don't have to be the fastest driver to win fairly in Le Mans Ultimate, although it does help, and I love that. It feels like the amount of races to choose from at any given moment in multiplayer strikes a good balance too. In my experience so far, I've only ever had to pull out of one race before it started due to low numbers, and to be fair, that was a race around the Bahrain endurance layout and it was a long race, so can you really blame anyone for pulling out of that? Aside from that, every race has had at least one split, but far more often than not, multiple splits, which tightens up the competition. And that includes beginner level races with GT cars and fixed setups, all the way up to multi-class endurance events with open setups and numerous pit stops. For me, this is key as well, because hypercars are complex beasts. As I was saying before, nailing your fuel strategy is incredibly important, so to be competitive, you have to be on top of the car, on top of the electronics, on top of the fuel usage, and yeah, it's not super simple. This complexity is both a blessing and a curse, because on the one hand, it puts people off ever learning the intricacies because they just want to race, not engineer a result with numbers. But for the hardcore, it just makes the racing more rewarding and adds a whole level of immersion, variation within a race, and satisfaction if you nail it. But thankfully, for those who do fall into that former category, there are short, fixed setup sprint races that you can always get stuck into instead. Now, obviously, there are still negatives here. I still see glitches from time to time. I've been kicked out or prevented from joining race sessions, and then they've happened anyway and I've lost driver ranking. All of that and the usual early access foibles, although it is in a much better state now than it was when it launched back at the start of 2024. But I do have to say, the community has an overwhelmingly positive feel to it at the moment. There's a lot of momentum, a growing user base, relatively clean driving etiquette within the races themselves, and a highly active Discord server, with a generally compassionate atmosphere surrounding the whole thing. I think many of the regular players really do feel like this is the sim to choose above all else. But it's not even a full game yet, I hear you shout. And exactly, yes, there are still plenty of reasons why we shouldn't be letting anyone off the hook entirely too soon. I mean, even a basic championship mode, let alone an immersive, WEC, experience-based career mode, feels like it should be mandatory. Driver swaps will make a big difference too, in my opinion, and as it stands, we will be getting them as part of a major May update, along with the 5th DLC pack, custom liveries, and the introduction of a Teams feature for online racing. And this for me is a big part of it, because finally the official game of the World Endurance Championship will actually be able to simulate the World Endurance Championship. And driver swaps are something that's been done well before, on the likes of ACC, iRacing, even rFactor 2. Aside from the stuff we already know about though, and some offline progression-based feature development, the game is, in my opinion, close to a full release state. As for what we want to see going forward content-wise, there's actually going to be a specific video on that subject, so do hit the subscribe button so that you get that video in your inbox and you don't miss it. So then, with all of that being said, is it worth it? You have to take into account not just the game experience itself, but you also have to think about the value for money and the long-term investment. I honestly think the core racing experience is good enough already on its own to justify a purchase of the base game, especially at the reduced early access cost. Especially given that for free you get access to every class within the game. The only races you're actually going to be forced to miss are those that use paid DLC circuits. But whether or not the subscription or the DLC purchases represent good value is far more subjective in my opinion. I honestly think they do, but I'm very aware also that I am a passionate sim racer who does a lot of sim racing, and I'm happy to invest a bit of money into something that I feel is going to be a long-term platform that I'm going to use. On one hand, I do actually respect the fact that you can choose between subscribing to the content or buying it outright and owning it. That's kind of refreshing in the current industry. But then again, paid DLC or an $84 subscription on top of a base game that's still in early access, that has just felt cheeky since the get-go. It also, sadly, feels like that's the way games are going these days. So many PC-specific sim racing titles are early access, are live service updates, and unfortunately, they are expensive. Content is expensive. So when it comes to looking at the value, you really have to analyse the core experience itself. Is it worth it to you? Many people complain, for instance, about the relatively astronomical prices of iRacing's content and subscription service. But do the hardcore iRacers complain in the same way? Do they get value for money out of it? I mean, they must do. or else they wouldn't pay the money for it. I feel passionately about the quality of the online racing in Le Mans Ultimate, and I know I'm not the only one, so for me, the value is there. I also love the World Endurance Championship and motorsport in general, so I think that really helps as a hardcore racing fan. But for those either tight on budget or wanting to dip a toe in the water first before doing a full Tom Daly, the base game alone, rather than going all in on all the DLC, is a viable alternative option. It's not crazy expensive, and as I say, it does allow you to do most of the things that the game offers. One thing I haven't mentioned yet, however, is the rocky foundations that the solid foundations are being built on top of, and that is, of course, motorsport games. Yes, this is beginning to feel like a solid product, but MSG has been for sale for quite some time now, and we all know the financial struggles of recent times. And if a buyer doesn't step in, could Le Mans Ultimate fall off the edge of the cliff? Unfortunately, you've got to consider it if you're talking about value for money. There is a certain level of risk because of MSG's uncertain future, but for me, this game deserves to have a future, and I think, in its current state, it deserves to be purchased. But what do you think? If you've got the game already, I want to hear your opinions down in the comments below. If you don't have the game, are you going to be getting it? Are you holding out for any particular reason? Again, I want to hear from you so we can enjoy a discussion about it. A reminder that you can keep up to date with all of the latest Le Mans Ultimate news by heading over to the TraxionGG website, and again, subscribe to this channel if you don't want to miss any future videos on the subject, or any other sim racing subjects for that matter. Until I see you next time, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.